So once you've got a Windows machine, and you can just use your Windows desktop if you want to, because these projects don't involve using any malware or anything. So you install Autopsy and run it. Autopsy is an open source free product which gives you the basic functionality of very expensive commercial products like Encase and FTK. So you just download and install Autopsy, and then you can analyze an evidence file. And just to make sure Autopsy is working, I made a very simple evidence file here. So it's, let me go into my Windows 11 machine. I think I can demonstrate this. My Windows 11 virtual machine runs very slowly when I'm sending over, broadcasting over Zoom, but I think it'll be good enough. I've learned the trick is it doesn't pick up your mouse clicks unless you wait until it detects your mouse movements, which is not too obvious. So it is usable, but you have to be a little careful. Okay, so here comes my browser. All right, and I'll go to samsclass.info and forensics. There we go. Just have to wait a few seconds when pointing before I click, or it won't register it. Now here's the project F200, and down here is the link that goes to the evidence file. This is an E01 file, which is the most common format. It's E standing for expert witness, which is an old, long extinct program, but Encase chose to use the expert witness format as their default format. So many people now describe this as the Encase format. The important thing about this is it compresses the data. So if you image a 500 gigabyte hard drive, it compresses it down to something much smaller, which makes it much easier to handle. So that's the evidence file downloaded. Now I run Autopsy, and I'm going to shove the instructions to the side so I can refer to them while doing it. All right, so Autopsy has this cartoon of a dog. That's their big thing. Used to be something called SleuthKit and Autopsy. Now they combine it in one product called Autopsy. So I make a new case. All forensic products work like this. They want you to keep a bunch of notes of what you're doing, because presumably you're going to go to court later with this stuff as evidence of a crime, and you're going to need thorough notes. So this, I'm going to call this F200. I want you to give it a name, a case name. You also, the first time you use Autopsy, you have to choose a base directory to store your stuff in. I've already chosen the documents folder here, and it remembers that. Here you have to give it a case number, and in a real case you should also fill in the name of the examiner and things like that. In this case I'm not going to bother. All I need is a number, F200. All right. Now it creates a database, and someone says, how much storage is needed to install and run? Not much at all. Autopsy itself is not very big. It's no bigger than, I think, say, Microsoft Word or anything like that. You might need a lot of storage if you want to analyze a big case, though. For example, the case of a whole Windows hard drive might be 100 or 200 gigabytes, and then you need a lot of storage for that. For this class, I made a lot of small images, so you don't really need more than 10 or 20 gigabytes of free space to do any of the projects here. But to do a real case with a real modern hard drive image, of course, you need a very powerful machine to analyze, like, a 250 gigabyte file. You want a lot of processing power and a lot of storage space and a lot of memory. So now it's going to generate a host name automatically, which is fine. There's some other option I've never used. And this is in fact a disk image, which is the most common thing. Just a file that contains every bit that was stored on a disk. I opened a virtual machine and made a small virtual hard disk and imaged it to create this first image we're using here. So it is a disk image. And now I browse on the next window. Next, I say. Having trouble getting it to move. Next. Okay. Now I have to find my image, which is F200. So I browse and go into my downloads. And there it is, F200.E01. All right. And now next. And make sure all these things are checked. These are all the evidence analysis modules that it will run. And for this one, we're just going to run all those modules. Most of them will not apply. These do things like hunt for images hidden in the file and emails and pictures and other things like analyze them as if it was an iPhone or Android cell phone. I'm just going to select them all and then next. Whenever this thing notices where I put the mouse. All right. And now it has begun processing the data source. And it's warning me down here there's no known hash set. You can download a list of hash values of common files and add it so it'll just remove all of them, because you really don't usually care about commercial software, Microsoft products, and things like that. And I haven't done that, so it was warning me that it's just going to show me all the files. It's not going to make any attempt to remove the known files, which is a useful feature, but I'm not using that feature. So now it's still analyzing down here in the corner, and it's up to 61%. It'll take another minute or so to finish analyzing. But you can look at what it's finding while it's analyzing. So what it does is it gives you a tree up here showing you what it finds in the images. And I got to wait for my mouse to respond. There we go. So here's file types, by extension and MIME types. I'm going to look by extension. And in here you see there are two images, flag1.bmp and doggy.ping. When you click on an image, it shows you the image down here. And I think there might be some text documents here. I don't remember. Let's see, documents. There's a plain text document called hello.txt. There's only like 3 files. This just has hello world in it. So there's just a few files here, and one of them will contain a flag. You saw one named flag. And so that gives you something to turn in here. This first project just verifies that you have Autopsy installed and running. And so that's it for the first Autopsy project. And I think I'll just talk how the rest all go in a very similar way. I'm just going to bring the instructions in here. The demo is running too slowly to be fun to demonstrate live, and it really doesn't matter. What you've just seen is essentially all you have to do for all these Autopsy projects. So this one here, you just have a somewhat bigger file I got from some database. It's got some story about how they've outlawed the possession of rhinoceros images, and you're looking for these supposedly illegal images. So you download this. And in this case, you verify the hash value. This is the traditional thing you do in forensics. You often make a copy of evidence, and then you do something like deliver it to the other side, like your defense, and you submit it to prosecution. And they want to verify that your image has not been modified. So you attach a hash value to it, and this one goes by the SHA-1 hash. So make sure your SHA-1 hash matches this expected value, which you can get with this free utility, hashcalc. This is very common. And then unzip the file, and it contains a DD and a few log files, which the first one is in fact a packet capture. So you'll find a DD, which is a Linux type raw disk image. The E01 file takes every bit on the hard drive and puts it in a compressed file. The DD file just makes an exact duplicate of a hard drive, bit for bit, without compression. So it's 253 megabytes, and this was just a copy of a 250 megabyte USB. So that's a bunch of data from USB, and you ingest it into Autopsy the same way, and it will now find images, find 7 images, and it will find other things. And because you have a complete image of a USB drive, including the unallocated space, you can look at the deleted files down here. It will find some deleted files. And you'll find a document you can read which has some information in it that's relevant to the case, and you'll find various images here in the deleted files folder. This is one of the most famous activities of forensics, is recovering deleted files off storage media. This primarily applies to magnetic storage media, USB drives also, and hard drives. SSDs usually do not have any recoverable files because there's a background process of garbage collection that erases the empty spaces. And so there's a few things here. You can find all the deleted files. There's 132 of them, and find flags by searching through them. And then there's a diary you have to read, and so on. There's a few flags to find in there. So there's a few Autopsy things to show you. And the next one is network forensics, and then some more Autopsy. So I'll stop this video and let people work for a while.